Bishops must be husband of one wife, not wife of one husband. Has to be a man. Yeah, sorry girls, right? That's what this person says. So this came from the video where I explained how women can be pastors. I said typically it's still going to be men. Typically leadership will still be men. But God has called women to ministry before, and he will do so again. However, this person is trying to say because Paul specifically mentioned the gender, then therefore women are automatically excluded. Well, maybe not. Let's take a look at some other implications if we hold that to be true. Matthew 5:28. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Well, the assumption here is men looking at women, which, of course, given the nature of men and women, we know that it's far more common. But does this mean that it's okay to look at men lustfully? Is it okay for women to look at other women lustfully? Of course, we know the answer is no. We know this applies to both genders. But he chose one gender, the one that it would apply most to. And my argument is Paul did the same. Now, you might say, well, you're looking at two different authors. Okay, let's look at something else Paul did. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, Paul says, now concerning brotherly love, you have no need for anyone to write to you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love one another. Does that mean only the brothers were taught? He mentions brothers several times in this passage. Does that mean the women have no idea what brotherly love is? Of course not. He's using the masculine form as a gender-neutral term. So if you're going to say that the qualifications for a bishop in this passage, which is the equivalent of a pastor, if you're going to say that that requires a gender-specific situation instead of Paul using what was most common as we see in other passages, then you're going to have to make that point somehow in the passage other than that's how I read it. That's how I read it is not a defense. Now, that being said, I am okay with people disagreeing with me. This has been debated for over 100 years, so no harm done if you don't agree with this little puppet. But when I read scripture, I see that the gender requirements most of the time are used as gender neutral terms or used as whichever gender is most common in that role. So if men more likely were in that role, they say brothers or he. If women, they would say daughters or she. And if you want an example of the daughters in general, you can look at the book of the Song of Solomon. But if you can be respectful about it, you are welcome to rebut everything I've said. The ball's in your court.